Hey, welcome everybody. This is Kevin Wallace, and I thought I would join you this morning, or it's probably not morning where you are, but I thought I'd join you this morning and answer a really common question that I've been getting just a lot these days. I get the question, all right, Kevin, I'm kind of getting into the IT certification space. I'm just kind of beginning my career. If you were me and you had to start all over again, what exactly would you do? What would be your game plan? And I thought we'd talk about that for a little bit today. And maybe it'll give you some insight into what your next step or what your first step should be. Now let me start off with a disclaimer. I'm not you. We have different circumstances. We have different interests. We have different resources. We have different employers. Things are different. But I'm not telling you what the steps I'm about to give. I'm not saying that's what's necessarily best for you, but this is what I would do if I were starting over again today, brand new in this industry. And I'm hoping from that you're going to be able to take some insight and maybe you say, okay, it's a little bit clearer now what my next step is. So let's jump into it. I want to give a big welcome to everybody that's joining us. Looks like we've got a good number. I just literally this morning decided to do this talk. I was thinking, I'm getting this question a lot. I'd really love to chat with people one-on-one. Let's do a Facebook live chat. So I hope you enjoy this. And if you do, let me know, because if it's something you guys like, I'd love to do it more and more frequently. But let's get into this topic. What would I do if I were starting over again today? And I'll tell you, my answer today is different than the answer that I would have given you a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, here's what I would have said. Let me sketch this out for you. I used to visualize things like this. I used to think that all the different certification tracks that Cisco has, they're all relatively the same in popularity. Yeah, sure, route switch is probably the most popular. So maybe those of you that have taken a stats class, you're going to recognize this normal distribution curve, and we'll say that this is the mean. We might have route switch up here is the most popular. I don't know, maybe sort of middle of the road. We might have service provider. We might have security up here. Maybe down here a little bit we've got collaboration. But the idea was pretty much any track you take, it's going to fall somewhere within this area. They're all great, I would tell you. I would say pick the track that is most interesting to you, because you're going to be spending a ton of time going down this certification track. Don't pick a topic just because you think there's going to be more job demand for it. Pick a topic because it's something that you love, something you really can get into and dedicate the next few years of your life to. My answer has changed, though, in the last couple of years. And the reason I say that is there have started to emerge a couple of statistical outliers, to stay with our stats metaphor. We've got network programmability that is pretty much a necessity these days, and we've also got cyber ops or cybersecurity. Let's talk about these two for a moment. First of all, network programmability. My eyes got really open to that actually a few years ago, but it really hit home this year at Cisco Live. Cisco CEO Chuck Robbins was giving his keynote, and here's the illustration he gave. I want to share this with you. He said that traditionally, people in this industry have CLI skills. Now, I've been working with Cisco gear since about 1989, so I was definitely in this camp. I was a CLI person. And I would guess many of you joining me today, you've got some good CLI skills. You can get into a router, you can configure that interface, you can set up spanning tree protocol on a switch. You've got some solid CLI skills. Now, others of you, or maybe some of your coworkers, they have programming skills. So they've got this other skill set where they can do programming. What Chuck Robbins was telling us was that the sweet spot for the future is to be right in the middle, to have an overlap of those two skill sets. And this magical overlap area, he called that a hybrid engineer. And that's what I want for you guys. and gals joining us on the live call today. To be a hybrid engineer, we've got a mixture of skill sets. We've got both the CLI and the programming. Now, you can use different, I get this question a lot too. Does it have to be Python? Could it be something else? It can be something else, but generally it's Python. You're going to want to know some Python. But here's the fear that I hear from so many people. So many people say, I've got my CCNA in routing and switching, I've got my CCNP in routing and switching. Is that wasted now? Is it any good? Well, I would say yes, it is, because even though we might be configuring our networks with programs, talking directly to those network devices and talking to controllers like an APIC or an APIC EM controller, we're still going to need to know, what are we doing? When we're setting up low latency queuing, what exactly does that mean? We don't want to just say, yeah, turn on low latency queuing. We want to know what's going on here. We need to be able to tweak things a little bit. So we want to become a hybrid engineer. Just going to take a quick look. I want to stop periodically during our talk today just to catch any questions that might be going on. So let's see if we have any questions coming in. Oh, good to see you too. Thanks for that feedback. All right, I'll be checking this periodically, but let's talk about cyber ops now. Chuck Robbins says you're going to need to be a hybrid engineer to be relevant in the future. What about cyber ops? What's that about? Well, cyber ops, I'll just make a little notation here, and I've heard different studies on this, but around the year 2019 to 2020, there's going to be 6 million cybersecurity jobs available, or not available. There'll be 6 million total cybersecurity jobs in the world. Now, what's staggering about that, what just blew my mind, was a full fourth of those, 25%, 1.5 million jobs are going to be unfilled. Can you imagine that? In 2019, 2020, if you got a cybersecurity specialization, or you're good in that field, you've got some options. Approximately 1.5 million jobs worldwide available in that area. This is an area that deserves some focus. So I'm thinking that we certainly need the foundation. I would never tell you, yeah, forget about CCNA routing and switching. No. I would say that that's foundational. I don't care what track you're in. If you're in data center, you've got to route. You've got to switch those data center packets. If you're in wireless, as soon as you hit that wireless access point, you're routing and switching. Everything kind of boils down to routing and switching. You've got to have that as your foundation. So I would say, yes, you've got to have some routing and switching knowledge. But in addition to that, before you start going down another track, before you start going down the collaboration of the data center or the service provider or the security track, I would say that you want to skill up in your programming. I want you to become a hybrid engineer. And then once you start focusing on a track, now right now at the time of this recording, it's probably going to change, but as of today, Cisco only has one CyberOps certification. It's a CCNA CyberOps certification. It takes 2 exams to pass it. Now, interestingly, your CCNA in routing and switching is not a prerequisite. You can just go right in and take those 2 exams, and suddenly you're a CCNA in CyberOps. But I'd recommend you get your CCNA in routing and switching anyway. I think that's a good first step. So these are 2 statistical outliers beyond the group that I normally thought, all the certifications are about the same, pick what you love and go for it. No, now I'm saying start out with routing and switching, and then you've got to understand about programming, you've got to understand about some cyber ops. Let's take a quick look and see if we have any questions coming in. It is a bit windy here today. Now, somebody's saying, now is this from the beginning of your career, after the CCNA, A+, Security Plus, do they have no value? That's not at all what I'm saying. Please don't hear me say that. I'm saying those things do have value. I'm saying that we need to know some of the foundational underpinnings of how things work. Yeah, if you're getting your CCNA, I would actually recommend that as your first step if you're getting in. Or if you haven't worked with networks at all, then yeah, maybe the CompTIA track. Take a look at security. CompTIA actually has sort of a suite of 3 different security certifications right now. They just came out with their own cybersecurity certification earlier this year. What is it, the CSA? I'm not sure of the acronym. But yeah, I think that would be great. I want you to build that foundation. I want you to understand how things work at the CLI level. I want you to understand the theory. I'm just saying, once you get that base, then build on it. You've got to build on it with programming. And I don't care if you're going down security, collaboration, whatever track, you're going to intersect with network programmability, because I was talking to a Cisco engineer, and they were telling me that, let's say collaboration. Even though you're in the collaboration space, they said their vision is that you're going to be using network programmability to configure your Cisco Unified Communications Manager server. You're not just going to be doing everything through the GUI that you normally have. You can write programs to reach out and configure a group of servers. So it doesn't matter which track you're in. Yes, you're going to need some network programmability. I'm just saying build. In fact, I think this will help. Let me show you graphically how I'd recommend, if I were starting over today, here's how I would do it. And I think all certs have value. Please never hear me say that any cert does not have value. Just by going through the certification process, you're better. I don't care if you get the certification or not, you're a better IT professional. I remember it took me 2 attempts to get my second CCIE. And I remember after the first failure, I just felt so horrible about that. I thought, oh, I studied and studied and studied, and I didn't pass. But you know what? I reflected on it, and I thought, it's still worth it. I'm a better engineer because I spent all those hours going through that study. I've learned so much in prepping for that cert that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. It made me better even if I didn't pass. So please understand, I think there are value in all these different certifications. But here's how I would start over. Again, back to the topic of today's discussion. How would I start over? The number one thing I would do, assuming I had now if I didn't have any experience at all, if I was like brand new, I've never set up a wireless network in my home, I'd probably start with Network Plus, maybe A Plus if I wasn't that familiar with computers. But if you're somewhat handy with, you're the person in the family that everybody calls when they want their printer set up, or you're the person that they call when they get a virus, and you're doing all the family maintenance. That's probably your indication that you've got a good start. The first thing I would do is I would get my CCNA, if I could spell that would be fantastic, CCNA in routing and switching. That would be number one. As soon as I did that, and that's going to take a little bit of time, because you could either go after the 2 exam track or the 1 exam track. If you go after the 2 exam track, then you're going to be taking the ICD 1 exam. Passing that gives you your CCNT certification, and then you'll take the ICD 2 exam. Both of those combined give you your CCNA in routing and switching, or you can just go for the lump exam. You can one and done, I call it. You can take the 1 exam and you can become a CCNA. Now, which track should you take? My general recommendation on that is based on your experience. As just sort of a semi-arbitrary cutoff, if you've got 2 years or less of experience, I would say go the 2 exam track. Take them individually. You don't have to memorize as much or prepare for as much for each exam. But if you've got more than 2 years of experience working with Cisco gear, I'd go for it. I'd do that 1 exam track. So step 1, I would do my CCNA in routing and switching. Then, on top of that, I also consider this to be foundational. Number 2, I would study, I'm not saying get certified in it, but I would study network programming, because that's going to be the underpinnings for all of these individual, think of them as silos, all these individual certs that are going to be coming later. So you're going to want to have this foundation. Now, what would I do third? I wouldn't go directly down a track yet. Like I was saying earlier, I don't care what track you're going after. I think, personal opinion, I think you need to know routing, you need to know switching, because you're going to be routing and switching all sorts of packets. It doesn't matter what track you're in. And I would want you in a competitive job market to be able to show that you can go deeper into these tracks. You didn't stop at CCNA. I think it's great. That's a great accomplishment. It's a necessary step. Don't hear me say that it's not a good thing. Yeah, you've got to do it, but don't stop there. I would then get, as step number 3, personally, I would then get my CCNP in routing and switching. That's going to show that you're able to go a bit deeper. Now, a few years ago, here's what I would have told you. A few years ago, I would have said, let's go from that point directly to your IE, because the rewards come when you can go super deep in a topic, when you are an expert. instead of being a generalist. I would much rather have one CCIE than 5 CCNAs, because a particular employer, a particular project, they're going to need you to have deep domain expertise in whatever the topic is, rather than being a generalist. It's cool to know about all those things. I love to learn about all those things, but I would have told you that the value is going deeper. Now, however, because of this emergence of this unprecedented need like we've never seen before for cyber ops professionals, I would say as your 4th step, here's what I would do. I'll draw this as a little silo that will stack on top of this. I would get my CCNA in cyber ops. So we're going to build on this foundation, this little silo. We're going to get our CCNA in cyber ops. Now, once you've done that, at step number 4, this is where you get to decide. You get to decide, all right, I've laid a foundation. I'm competitive. I can go into an employer and I can say, I know Python. I can work with an APIC. I can work with an APIC EM. I can telnet. I can secure shell directly into devices. Now, please hear this. I don't think right now, personally, I would not spend too much time becoming super expert in network programmability, because I really think most of your learning is going to come on the job. You're going to go into a data center environment, or you're going to go into a big enterprise environment, and they're going to have a specific need. And if you've got the basic toolbox with you that you've learned, you know how to use ARIA to build your Python programs based on JSON output that you've extracted from an APIC. If you know how to do those, if you've got the basic skills to do that, then you can adapt those skills and you can learn and you can apply those skills to whatever your employer wants you to do. So I would say study this. Study this. Now, I realize that Cisco now has, they've got it's sort of a specialization certification in network programming. That'd be great to have. I think the study for that would be valuable. You typically don't see a lot of job opportunities or job offers where they're saying, we want you to have this specialization. Usually it's one of the big certs, the NA, the NP, the IE, the DE, something like that. So I wouldn't spend too much focus on getting that specialization cert, but certainly you want to know network programming. And then whether you're necessarily going to fill one of these 1.5 million job openings or not, I don't want you to know some cyber ops, because just by virtue of the demand, we know it's going to be super important. So at this time in your career, you can take a deep breath finally. You go, all right, what am I going to do now? What do I love? Do you love security? Great. Go down the security track. Are you working in a data center? Do you love that? You can go down the data center track. Are you working for a service provider? This is where you get to pick and choose. And I'll just take my example. I went for collaboration. So for collaboration, we'll do another silo here. We'll say this is collaboration. As step number 5, let's say I picked, which I did, the collaboration as my path to go down. I would get my CCNA, wouldn't stop there. I would get my CCNP in that track. And then I might get my CCIE. Let me explain. Now, I did get my CCIE in both route switch and collaboration. And if route switch is your chosen field, then you bet, go back here and get your IE. But I might get my CCIE here at step number 7. Now, here's what I mean by I might get my CCIE in that area. I have seen a lot of people get all excited about their certification goals, and they've knocked out their NA, they've knocked out their NP, and they go for their IE. And they spend a lot of money, they spend a lot of time. I've heard of it causing marital troubles. You're spending so much time studying. There is a sacrifice that you have to make if you want to become a CCA. It's not something to be taken lightly. I'll give you an example of my second CCIE. After I failed my first attempt, I thought, I'm going to get dedicated. I'm going to study. I'm going to get it next time. And I remember from sometime in October 2011 until sometime in March 2012, I tried to keep track of it loosely. I studied about 1,600 hours for that exam. 1,600 hours. I studied every day. Well, I took Christmas off, but every other day, literally, I studied every day for months, taking one day off to get ready for that exam. And it was hard. Like I said, that exam, after months of preparation and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of study, it was super hard. I could have easily failed that exam. So I don't want you to get into a situation where you don't have the flexibility at this stage in your life to dedicate that much time. Maybe your employer's not going to be financing it, and you've got to come up with this big chunk of money every single time to take the exam. I don't want you to go down that track if you're not emotionally ready. Now, here's the way I was. Here's the way I knew that I was emotionally ready to go after my second CCSI. It's kind of hard to explain. I remember talking to my wife about it. I was talking to my boss at the time about it, and I said, there's not some big career move that I want to make after I get my second CCSI in voice, now collaboration. I don't really have this end game for it. I just really, really want it. I just knew deep down I got to have this. I don't know why. I don't know where it came from. I kind of like what Tony Robbins talks about, the word desire. He says the word desire comes from the Latin roots de and sire, like sire when you're talking about horses, meaning father. Desire actually means of the father. So just personal belief. I think if you've got a deep desire for something, it's something good, something positive, I think that came from somewhere. And I think you've got the resources to make it happen. But if you just have a passing interest in a CCI would look really good on the resume, yeah, I think I'll do that. I want you to really think long and hard, because it is a sacrifice. And it depends on so many variables. Let's say that, another little graph for you. Let's say that on the y-axis, we've got the skill required to get a CCIE, represented by this dashed line. And here's the time it takes to study. And let's say you're studying a brand new topic for the first time. Well, right off the bat, that learning curve is steep, isn't it? You're learning this command and that command, and oh, that was cool, let's do that again, let's lab this up. So you've got this steep learning curve. But then things start to plateau. It takes longer to figure things out. But let's say that you're one of the fortunate ones. You break this barrier. Let's say, now if you're a superstar, there's not many of those around, I'm not one, but if you're a superstar, maybe in a year's time, you can get your CCA. That's rare, by the way. It took me about 3 years to go from NA to IE. So let's say for me, it took me, here's some of the variables I was talking about. Some people, they process information slower than other people. Doesn't mean they're smarter or not smarter. It just means that they just process information differently. Some people recall information differently. Some people are quicker than others about making associations in their mind between different pieces of information. How fast you type is a factor. I remember after passing my route switch CCA, I thought to myself, if I had not taken that typing class in college, I would have failed the labs. Seriously, I would have failed it because there was so much typing. If I had just been a hunt and peck typist at that time, I wouldn't have passed the lab. So it depends on so many things whether or not you pass and how quickly you can pass. For me, it was more like this. Yeah, I would learn and learn and learn, and maybe at about 3 years' time, I broke through that level and got that CCIE. Now, for other people, family demands, financial concerns, some people are external thinkers. Some people, in order to really work a problem out, they need to talk to other people about it. And some people are, now I'm an internal thinker. I just process things internally, trying to figure something out. Some people need to chat it up with somebody. You're not going to be chatting it up with anybody in the lab. Well, maybe the proctor, but not, that's limited. But some people, just because of who they are, it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just their characteristics. It's going to take them longer to reach this level, and there is a point when it becomes too long. I mean, what if you're in this situation? Resources, personality, external thinker. You're going to get to the point where suddenly it's too long. Now, I know of now one CCI candidate that comes to mind, and I'm under a non-disclosure. I'm not able to give a name or how many attempts that this person has made. But let me just give you an illustration. If I decided today that I'm going to go after this brand new certification, I'm going to take it all the way to the CCIA level, and I took one attempt per year based on how many times they have passed it or how many times they have taken it and failed, no kidding, I would probably be dead before I ever earned that CCIE. don't be in that situation. I don't want this to be something that you're just chasing and you burn so much of your life away, because there's a sacrifice. My family was super supportive. Let me pick that up. My family was super supportive, and I'm really blessed in that area. But I told them, I said, I know my life is going to be out of balance, and it was for months. But I got the certification, and it paid off. So you need to think long and hard about this. So let's sum up. The topic of today was, what would I do if I started over? And I would say that the first thing is getting that, well, let me back up to that slide, that page. If I were starting over, number one, I would get my CCNA in routing and switching. Number two, I would study. I wouldn't really care about the certification. I would study network programmability. Then I would come and pick up my NP and route switch. Then I would pick up cyber ops. At that point, I would pick what I'm most interested in, and I would go after that next. I use collaboration as an example. I would get the CCNA, NP, and after thinking long and hard about it, I may or may not go after the IE. If I did not go after the IE, here's what I would do. I would pick another silo. Maybe I would pick data center, and I would get my NA and NP in data center instead of going all the way to the CCIA level. That would be an alternate approach if I thought the CCA just was not for me. So that's how I would go about it if I were starting out today. Again, your mileage may vary. We're different personalities. Now, if I can help you on this, now I'm guessing because you're joining me on this live call, then you've probably seen some of my training videos. You follow me on some of the different social media outlets. So I just want you to know that if you kind of resonate with the way that I teach stuff, I can help you with the first 3 steps. I'm actually working on that cyber ops thing myself right now. So hopefully, maybe next year we'll have something on that. No promises, but I'm studying that myself right now. But I can help you with steps 1, 2, and 3 right now. You can go to kwtrain.com/CCNA course, and that's going to take you to my complete video course for earning your CCNA in routing and switching. Everything you need to know to pass that exam. If you're already there, you're going for your CCNP in routing and switching, go to kwtrain.com/CCNP course. So CCNA course, CCNP course, or if you want to learn about network programmability, again, not really trying to get a certification, but just so you can go into an employer, you can go into a customer environment, you can do this in your own environment, just so you got enough skills to get in the game when it comes to network programmability, you can go to kwtrain.com/FNP video. That's for Fundamentals of Network Programmability video. That's a brand new video course I came out with literally just about like 10 days ago or something like that. And it will tell you how to work with an APIC and an APIC EM, and how to telnet and how to secure shell into devices. It will teach you things like netconf and Yang data modeling and XML and JSON and working with the Postman app. So this is what I would recommend as training to get started on those first 3 steps. Let's take a look at questions now. Yeah, I got a comment coming in here saying, hey guys, you still need CCDA for the basics. And I would agree that if you're going to be in any sort of a design role, then I think the DA is great. It's got a lot of theory in it, and it's a great course. If you look in the marketplace, if you look for what certs are in demand, DA is not toward the top of the list. I think it's valuable. I got mine early on. Glad I did, but it's near the top of the list, or it's not near the top of the list. Well, this is interesting timing. I'm getting a delivery, so you're going to hear some noise in the background right now. Getting some equipment delivered. Oh yeah, somebody's saying by passing the architecture exam, it's going to renew the CCNP exam, or your CCNP cert. Yes, indeed it will. Any other questions? Go ahead and chat those in right now. Yeah, a question coming in about the certification opportunities for service provider and data center. What's their future? I think that, again, remember that Gaussian curve that we showed you earlier, that normal distribution? Well, I think they still live in that normal distribution. I think there's still a demand for it. I just wanted to point out to you that there's a couple of these outliers. We've got we've got cyber ops, and we've got network programmability that are statistically outside. They're 2 standard deviations away, I would say, from the statistical mean. Now it says, what if we already have a good amount of experience in collaboration? How do we go from there? Do we have to go back and start again with routing and switching? If you've already got a good bit of experience with collaboration, then I'd want to pick up. I guess it depends what you mean by a good bit of experience. If your good bit of experience includes knowledge of routing and switching, if you can go in and you can set up unidirectional link detection on your switch, if you can set up rapid spanning tree protocol, rapid PBST plus, if you know the difference between layer 2 and layer 3 ether channel, if you've got the knowledge, then I think you're good. But if you're not at that point, and I would say you probably are if you're that far down the track of collaboration, then I would say it's important to know that. So a great way to know that is to go through the certification track. If you don't know all the things that you should know at the NA level for routing and switching, I'd go back and revisit that. But if you've already got the experience, yeah, that's great. Any other questions? Cyber ops is the way to go after my CCNP routing and switching. Again, your situation may vary. It depends on what your employer wants, what you want to do. I'm saying what I would do in this live call today. But yeah, for me, I would do CCNA. I would in routing and switching. I would do network programmability. I would do NP in routing and switching. Then I would do cyber ops. That's what I would do. What's required to pass the CCNA and CCNP data center? I've got the CCNP in routing and switching. Your best bet, because I don't want to misquote exam numbers, I don't have my NP in data center. I've got my NA in data center. Honestly, it was not difficult. I found that to be one of the easier tracks to get your NA in. But just go to the Cisco.com and go to their certifications area, and you can see all the details about the data center certs. Wow, that sun is beaming down. I need to position this in a different place in the future. Any other questions? What are the keys required to pass those? Oh, I'm sorry. What are the keys required? I don't have any specific. Well, actually, I do. If you go to my website, I think it's still there. If you go to kwtrain.com, I think there on the home page there may be a link to a 7-step framework for preparing and passing any Cisco certification exam. So I've got a big article and a diagram, a framework of how to approach any exam. So I go download that. Generally, we would like to hear from you. What will you learn? What will I learn if I go for the cyber ops cert? Well, Cisco says if you get the cyber ops cert, what they're preparing you to do is to work in a cybersecurity operations center, where you work in one of these big rooms where they got the monitors all over the wall, and they're monitoring traffic, they're monitoring threats, and they're responding to those threats coming in from all over the world. So the goal is to prepare you to work for a cybersecurity operations center. Now, of course, you can advance and you could be a manager of that, or you could be in the design area of that. But that's what Cisco says. Other questions? Oh, you're welcome. Getting a thank you. I'm not seeing a lot of other questions coming in right now, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for the day. If you like this format, this is the first Facebook Live video I've done, and I've learned a few things about positioning this thing so I'm not in the direct sun when I'm teaching in the future. But if you like this, I'd love to see some thumbs ups or some hearts or something on the screen if you'd like to see more of this. I thought it would be fun to try and answer that really common question. Again, my next step might not be your next step, but I hope something I said today has triggered something in your mind, and I certainly want to wish you the best in the real world as well as in your certification. Thanks again, everyone.